What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, guys, I got some more Lawrence O'Donnell insanity. Check this out, y'all.
We didn't lose the money by buying a car. According to Donald Trump, if you pay for something, you have lost money. That's his understanding of economics. And so every time Donald Trump says we were losing hundreds of billions of dollars with China, every word of that is a lie. We have never lost a penny in international trade. The only way we could lose money is if we don't get the product that we paid for. And that doesn't happen. That's not how international trade works. Because our system of international trade is, in fact, so reliable, so productive, and has made the world so productive, and has made this country more productive, and has made this country much richer than it was going to be if it ever had tried to remain an isolationist economic island in the middle of the world that was thriving in international trade. The rest of the world would be thriving in international trade. Donald Trump.
Okay, so that's just some of the most ridiculous nonsense I think I've ever heard in my life. I don't know. I always say that when we play a Lawrence O'Donnell clip because it's always the most ridiculous nonsense I think I've ever heard in my entire life. He clearly doesn't understand how money works, as a matter of fact, right? Like, the trade deficits is a big problem with the United States. Think about it like this. Okay, let's say you make $500 a week, but yet you spend $700 a week. You might think, well, how can I do that? Well, you know, you print money. Eventually, you're going to run into a wall. That's essentially what the United States is doing. We're continually buying more than what we're selling out, in other words. Like, this money goes out, goes to China, goes to other places. What do they do with these U.S. dollars? What have they been doing with U.S. dollars, as a matter of fact? They're buying up farmland, they're buying up houses, and then they're renting those houses back to you at a premium, as a matter of fact. This is unsustainable. We cannot continue down this path. And Donald Trump has put a stop to this. He said, no more. We're going to change how international trade works. We're going to do a complete reset on this thing. And let's do some fair trade deals around this mother. But, you know, enough ranting about that. Let's get into this news article because, folks, it is not looking good for Democrats whatsoever. Especially when you have places like Semafor making articles like this. Check this out. And they're doing everything they can to make the Democrats look as good as possible. Trump's failing in polls. Not really, though. That's a lie. Why aren't Democrats benefiting? So now they're going with the idea, okay, oh, Donald Trump's cratering, right? Because they put out this odd statistic that nobody cares about that, oh, Donald Trump's first 100 days, he's got the lowest polling numbers of any president in 70 years, as if that really matters. But it really doesn't, because when you compare him to other presidents, they're not very far off, folks. Not far off at all. Sure, he might have the lowest, but like by 1%. Type of lowest, right? So it's not far off. So they're just making this up, and then they just go with that. They say, oh, he's the worst president, blah, blah, blah. We saw that clip from Chuck Schumer. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play that clip here in a little bit because they happen to mention that in here. Oh, yeah, they're going hard in on Democrats, and that's bad when Semafor is doing so. Let's get into this. Check this out, y'all. Democratic leaders love talking about their president's flagging poll numbers. Their own numbers, not so much. When House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries got asked recently to react to a colleague who worried that the party was too focused on El Salvador, he pivoted. Our reaction is that Donald Trump has the lowest public approval rating of any president in modern American history. And look, I'm sorry. I'm going to go full Cajun on you right quick. It come a turd floater, as a matter of fact. So I can't help it. It's raining really hard, and I'm in a metal building, and it's not insulated very well, so I apologize for that. There ain't nothing I can really do about that. But this is what Democrats always do, right? They just pivot. Oh, look, Donald Trump, he's an evil orange man. Don't look at me. They love doing that because, why? Because people with Trump derangement syndrome, as a matter of fact, will just, it's like, you know, when a dog sees a squirrel, right? They go, squirrel, and they just take off. That's what essentially these Democratic politicians are doing to their base. Squirrel. Boom. Donald Trump. Evil Orange Man, look, he's right over there, and he's got polling numbers. He's got the worst polling numbers of any president in the last 100 days for the last 70 years. What? One day later, after Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer boasted that Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating since they started polling 80 years ago, CNN's Manu Raju turned the question back on him. Schumer's own approval rating was 17% in CNN's poll, much lower than Trump's. Here we go.
Americans are noticing. The polls this week show Trump has the lowest 100-day approval rating since they started polling 80 years ago, the lowest. Even worse, 72% of Americans think it's likely that Trump's handling of the economy will walk us directly into a recession.
There was a poll out today that has your approval rating lower than any other congressional leader, 17%. Are you concerned that you may be a liability for your party?
Polls come and go. Our party is united. We're on our front foot. We're stepping forward and going after Trump and having real success.
You gotta love that, folks. I know I've played that clip a couple of times, but that's just such a beautiful clip because he's going on and on about Trump's approval rating in aggregate is in the mid-40s. I think it's exactly mid-40s. I think it's at 45% right now, right? And that's in aggregate. That's including all the corporate press polling, which is garbage polling, by the way. So what does that tell you? There's several polling places that have Donald Trump clearly above water by 2 or 3 points, as a matter of fact. So that's very fascinating. But, Donald Trump's got almost half of the country approves of the job that he's doing, and Chuck Schumer's over here at 17%. Like, we got to go after Trump. He's got the lowest approval rating, blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, are you freaking kidding me right now? Look at your own numbers. Look at your numbers specifically, then look at the Democrats' numbers, and then how about let's go even a little deeper than that, and let's look at House Democrats' numbers, and let's look at Senate Democrat numbers. You guys are all bad off, like really, really bad off. You have no room to be speaking whatsoever. But they do. They will just continue saying squirrel, and then Democrat base will just jump on that and start pouncing. It's lovely to watch. Polls come and go, said Schumer. Our party is united. He did say that, and as a matter of fact, it's not united. It's clearly in chaos. They're clearly fragmented, fractured, if you will. There's several different enclaves, whatever you want to call it, of the Democratic Party right now. There's no front runner whatsoever. There's no current leader. You got AOC. That's about it, right? Chuck Schumer leads the Senate Democrats, but his popularity is really, really bad, as a matter of fact. So they've got nobody, folks. Kamala Harris has been absent for the most part, but she's not a leader anyway. I still don't understand why they put up a coconut as a presidential candidate. It never made any sense to me, but polls nonetheless put Democrats in a notably weak position for a party aiming to win back Congress next year. In special elections held since Trump took office, Democrats have usually beat expectations, holding their Wisconsin Supreme Court majority and winning a slew of down-ballot races. But the party's image has not recovered from 2024, and its marks in the spring of 2017 were higher than today. So now they're comparing it back to when Trump was first elected. And as a matter of fact, yeah, let's get into that. We'll dive in on that here in a minute because they go further in on that. Voters don't necessarily trust that Democrats are going to stand up for them, said Ian Smith, the director of polling and analytics at the Democratic firm Navigator Research, and before that a pollster at the Kamala Harris campaign. Even folks that are seeing pain from what Trump's doing see some logic in it. No more. In Navigator Research's polling this year, favorable views of the Democratic Party started negative and stayed there, a 44-51 favorable unfavorable rating after Trump's first weeks, a 43-53 rating after 100 days. Over the same period, the GOP's favorable unfavorable rating dipped from 46-50 to 43-54. Voters grew more sour about Trump and Republicans. It didn't benefit Democrats at all, which is absurd to say because generally when one party goes down, the other party goes up. But that's not happening currently, folks. Sure, people might be aggravated with Trump a little bit, once again, but he's got the highest approval ratings of any politician, I believe, currently. Like any of the majorly polled politicians, we'll put it that way. So the fact that Democrats are not benefiting shows what is going on with the Democratic Party. In NBC News polling, the party has fared even worse with a record low 27% approval rating driven by frustration from their own base. That is right, folks. And they are showing up all over the place and voicing their concerns. We saw a viral clip that went viral the other day. Of course, that's how you get a viral clip, is by going viral, of AOC getting heckled by people to the left of AOC. Which, how can you get even further left than AOC? That's possible, folks. It really is. This was not the story 8 years ago, around the 100-day mark of Trump's first governing trifecta. Quinnipiac University's national polling put Democrats 16 points ahead in a House ballot test, benefiting from widespread buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse. That's not what it was. Once again, folks, if we look at all presidents, you go to the polling and look at them, like Donald Trump is really not that far off from where even Obama was. And Obama, well, his first term, Obama did really good after his first 100 days. But Obama's second term, not so much. That's when we're talking about like 1 or 2 points above where Donald Trump is right now. And the thing about you got to think about, okay, so we've got the corporate press. The corporate press hate Donald Trump. They're going to do anything and everything they can to try to skew the data to benefit Democrats and make Donald Trump look unfavorable, right? So that's given that Joe Biden and Obama and all these other people had the benefit of the corporate press polling where they're going to not skew those polls. In other words, that's just, you're probably getting what you're getting right there when it comes to Democrats. Because, yeah, they're not going to skew that. They're going to try to do everything they can to favor Democrats. This is what they do, folks. They manipulate the questions, the methodology in these polls. It's absurd what they do. There's all kinds of tricks that they can do to manipulate. And then sometimes the corporate press, they just outright lie about the polls. But let's keep going. By a 49-point margin, voters disapproved of what Republicans were doing in Congress. They disapproved of what Democrats were doing by roughly half that, a 24-point margin. So that speaks to a lot about where the current Democratic Party is. Utter chaos, folks. Utter chaos. And this is good for Republicans. However, currently, Democrats are kind of favored to win the midterms. Sorry, I don't know why that took me a second to get out. There is no similar polling to calm Democrats in 2025. In a survey shared with House Republicans last week, their campaign chair, Richard Hudson, found Trump just barely underwater in competitive seats, and Republicans up by an average of 2 points in the 13 Democratic seats that Trump carried last year. The view from Democrats, here we go, this is going to be fun, y'all. Their party's persistent unpopularity has become a subject of heated debate between Democrats, especially the loss of their usual advantage when voters are asked which party cares more about people like them. Yeah, we covered this, if you remember that, and that was shocking. The numbers were abysmal. This is a party that has a 27% approval rating, former New York Rep. Jamal Bowman said last week on the new Zito show he hosts with former Missouri Rep. Cori Bush, right? As if they have any room to speak at all. The party is on life support, and it needs new ideas, new voices, new energy to come in and save it. Yes, from people like you, my guy, Jamal Bowman, over here pulling the fire alarm to delay a vote when you have children in Congress and it is in the view of everybody in America. They can see what's going on. Yeah, you're going to get that. You're going to get low approval ratings because why are you pulling fire alarms, my guy? This is why you were booted out of Congress, as a matter of fact. Bowman and Bush, who were ousted thanks in part to millions of dollars spent by pro-Israel groups to challenge them in primaries last year, agreed that Democrats would have been stronger had they listened to them. This is the problem with Democrats, folks. This is a major problem with Democrats. They can't see their own faults, right? They're blaming it on money spent. Okay, that's not the sum of the game there, right? Just how much money you can spend in an election does not matter. This is why, one problem is this is why these people just tend to focus on fundraising and that's it. They don't focus on working on behalf of the American citizens. They just don't. Neither party does this, folks. Sure, you have a few congressmen here and there that do. Yes, I'll grant you that. Mostly Republicans from what I can tell. You do have some Democrats, though. You got one or two. That's it. Ro Khanna is one of those, right? So what they focus mostly on fundraising, right? Because they think that the more money you put into an election means you're going to win. That does not mean that, folks. Kamala Harris outspent Donald Trump 3-1. Just about 3-1. I'm sorry. It's close to that. She had $1.5 billion as opposed to Trump's, I think, 700 million or something like that. Right? So, yeah, it's not all about the money, folks. It's not all about the money. When you put up pineapples as candidates, when you put up duds, in other words, as candidates, you're going to lose. You guys need to find people that are sane, that are down to earth, that are charismatic, that can bring something to the party. But what do, folks? Anybody that comes with any amount of logic whatsoever, like anybody that says, well, we don't think men should play in girl sports, they get ostracized. They get ostracized into oblivion, and then they push those people into the Republican Party or push them off as independents, right? This is a problem with Democrats. They love their cancel culture, as a matter of fact. If you don't fully align with their worldview, you're out. You're far right. You're a Nazi, racist, orange guy, is what you are. But they're just insane, if you ask me. Moderate Democrats just as confidently have blamed the left wing for discrediting the entire party with their voters they need to win back. What? See, that's what I'm talking about right there. Discrediting the party? Because you guys are freaking insane. Talking about men and women's sports and all this other stuff. Actually standing on the hill of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Standing up for criminals. This is a problem when you have a party that would put criminals before their own constituents. Don't you think those constituents are going to see that eventually and be like, no, this ain't it. We're going somewhere else with our vote over here, right? They're just nuts, y'all. They really are. They want to blame moderate Democrats, are saying moderate Democrats are blaming the left. Yeah, they're blaming the far left because the far left has gone so far left that they have left the arena completely. And everybody in the Democratic Party walks on freaking eggshells because they don't want to fall out of lockstep with the rest of the Democratic Party, which is pretty much just the far left. Otherwise, they get ostracized. They don't want to be Republicans because they don't like Republicans. That's an untenable situation, folks. It really is. Where over here on the Republican side, sure, you've got a wide range of voices. People disagree all the freaking time. And Democrats see that, and the corporate press sees that as, oh, it's chaos. No, that's just normal disagreements. This is what normal people do. We have disagreements over H-1B visas, for instance, or maybe the border, or maybe what Donald Trump is doing about tariffs. We all don't agree on everything. We criticize Donald Trump, for the most part, when he does stuff that we don't like. Sure, I'll give it to you. There's a small contingent of MAGA diehard cultists out there. Sure. There are all those people. They exist. There are not many of them, though, folks. There really isn't. There's not many that you won't find that will not criticize Donald Trump. I've criticized Donald Trump several times. You guys know that. But this is the problem. if you don't march in lockstep with everything that the Democrats believe, which some of it you have to be insane to believe, you get ostracized. So these people, the moderate Democrats, keep their freaking mouth shut, which that's bad. You guys need to stand up and push back against that wing of the party. You got to. You just have to. In March, other polling for Navigator Research found a majority of voters in swing seats agreeing that Democrats were more focused on helping other people than people like me, that they were too focused on being politically correct, and that they did not share voters' values. That is terrible, folks. When your own party, you can't say that the political leaders in your party don't even share your values. That's sad, folks. That tells you about the state of the Democratic Party, as a matter of fact. Democrats who have been competing in state elections countered that the D.C. gloom isn't spreading elsewhere. Everywhere, sorry. But it is. At least in the Democratic Party. We've seen 3 specials this year where we put up 20-point over performances, said Iowa State Senator Zach Walz, pointing to a significant shift toward the party locally that helped them fill 1 seat just a week into Trump's term. We are seeing huge energy, whether it's door knocking or recruitment or rallies outside the big cities. That energy is more important to me than poll numbers. Yes, this is a very good indicator, but polls are also important, my guy. But once again, it really depends on the candidate there. It really does. If you got 2 good Republicans, or a good Republican and a good Democrat, you're going to have a tight race. But if you got a crappy Republican and a good Democrat, it's going to be a landslide. Regardless, if you got a good Republican and a bad Democrat, landslide, folks. That's just how it is. Now, sure, there are districts out there that are heavy red or heavy blue that no Democrat will ever win, regardless of how good they are. But we're not talking about those districts, folks. We're talking about like swing districts where it could flip and go either way, right? You've got to get in there, right? You got to get good people. And like I said, the good people in the Democratic Party are too scared to voice their concerns with the Democratic Party. This is utter chaos, folks. It's signs of collapse. We'll put it that way. It's definite signs of collapse. But that strength has come in lower turnout elections without much evidence that voters who abandoned the party have been convinced to come back. Yeah, they're not going to, as a matter of fact, when you got Republicans over here welcoming them with open arms, saying, hey, come over here, we all agree, blah, 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 blah. We agree to disagree sometimes. It's okay. We might get into an argument, but we're not going to ostracize you for doing so. Right? That's how normal Americans act, as a matter of fact. According to Smith, Democrats are not benefiting automatically from Trump or GOP problems because 74% of all voters say they wanted major change in the political system or to change that system entirely. Right? So, once again, this comes back to a narrative that the corporate press and Democrats are trying to pull. Oh, we got buyer's remorse. Donald Trump's polling numbers are terrible. People are sad that they voted for Donald Trump. I don't buy that at all. Now, sure, it's not going to be uniform all the way across the board. Of course, you might have some people out there that were kind of undecided, like, I don't know if I want to vote for Kamala Harris or not, that don't really pay attention to politics, that didn't really care about the system being changed, that, yeah, when Trump put on all these tariffs and blah, 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 they're like, oh my God, he crashed the freaking economy. But he hasn't crashed the economy, folks. He really hasn't. Sure, it might seem like there's a lot of turmoil, but is there, though? Is there? That's the question. I'm not seeing it at all. I mean, the job numbers are freaking spectacular considering where the stock market is. The job numbers are spectacular considering the tariffs. As a matter of fact, there's many metrics to the economy that show a strong economy. There are other metrics that show recession. We're just not sure where the chips are going to fall yet because Donald Trump just turned the whole thing upside down. Something that needed to be happen. I don't know, sometimes I have a way with words, as in I can't use them properly. But you know, it is what it is, folks. You got to make fun of yourself or everything's just going to be doom and gloom all the freaking time. Just 26% said that the system needed minor changes or none at all, right? Anybody that thought the system needed no changes whatsoever, that's your establishment, folks. Because they thought everything was moving along swimmingly. Oh yeah, we've got all this corruption. We're funding all these nonsense programs all over the place. Everything is doing fine. Anybody that says the economy was great under Joe Biden, they're delusional. Or they're part of the establishment and they're lying to you. Most people don't just want a system update, said Smith. If you offer them a version 1.2 of America, they won't see a difference in their day-to-day life. They'd rather see and feel change. He's right about that. So that's what we're saying. The vast majority of Americans wanted change. Now, do they like the change that they got? They may not. But I don't think that the corporate press narrative that all Republican, Donald Trump is a failed president, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that. I think he has a lot more support than what the polls are actually showing, right? Because once again, you look at some of the more accurate pollsters out there, Donald Trump's favorability has stayed above 50% pretty much the entire time. It hasn't dipped below at all. Only the corporate press polling places has he dipped. Right? He has gone down a little bit, sure. Right? Once again, we showed the polling the other day. He did dip down from Rasmussen. He dipped down to 46 for a week, but he's back up above 50. Right? Then you got RGB, and you got several others, right? That he's been above 50% his entire 5 or 6 days it is now. Whatever it is. But this is a problem. People wanted this change. People wanted Donald Trump to come in like a freaking bull in a china shop and just smash everything. Right? Smash it, clean everything up. Let's do the work, get it cleaned up, and start anew. Right? And that's what Donald Trump is doing. Now, and what I find so fascinating, and one reason I think why Democrats are so unpopular right now, is look at what's going on with the immigration system, right? This is one of those 80-20 issues where the vast majority of Americans wanted these illegal immigrants booted out. And Democrats and these activist judges are doing everything they can to stop the deportation efforts. That's why you're not seeing, that's one of the reasons why you're not seeing any favorability gains for Democrats. Because it's their people that are stopping the most popular issues for Americans, right? Getting these criminal aliens out of the country. And it's just been insane. These Democrats are dying on the hill of standing up for criminal aliens over you. And people are like, I'm fed up with this. I'm done. I am absolutely done. Democrats are dying on the Kilmar Brago Garcia hill, folks, and that story is not going away. It still isn't going away. It's never going to go away because Democrats can't get off their freaking high horse, right? They're up there on their high horse. Oh, we need our due process for criminals that aren't even supposed to be in this country. And people are like, what in the F are you talking about, dude? Seriously. It's just insane to watch what Democrats are doing right now. Then you got these people, all they do, anytime they're asked a question, everything is Donald Trump bad. Well, Donald Trump did this, and Donald Trump did that, and Donald Trump is doing this, and Donald Trump is going to do this, and he's going to do that. Oh, look, Donald Trump said he doesn't know if people should have due process. They're just nuts, folks. They're just nuts. They're just outright nuts, and that's all I got to say about that. That's all I got on this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. It's mind-blowing, ain't it? It really, really, truly is. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.